Welcome to the very fundamentals of JavaScript course, where you are going to start your journey of JavaScript development. Maybe either you are a new person in the world of development or you are a developer that you want to switch into JavaScript. This course is meant for you. In this course, we are going to take the very basic fundamentals of JavaScript. And before we move on, we may like to ask, what is JavaScript? What can we use JavaScript for? JavaScript, in simple terms, is a programming language, just like any other programming language such as C++, Python, and any other programming language you may know. And JavaScript is used in writing applications, mostly web applications, but it can also be used in writing desktop application. We can also use it in writing mobile application with the use of React. And as a web language, it is used in writing of web frameworks that are used for front-end development such as Angular or React and many other frameworks. Without wasting time, let us dive right into writing our first JavaScript line of code. Let me open up my developer and my my dev- my VS Code, where I'll be writing my code editor, and I'm using VS Code editor. And for a web browser, and I'm using Chrome. And it's advisable that you use Chrome just because Chrome have and Chrome have high rate of update, and it is also used mostly for development because of its high ability to display development tools such as the what we'll be using our console and other operations on the browser. And the first thing we are going to look at is how we can write our JavaScript code. There are many ways of writing JavaScript. The first one we are going to look at is how we write our JavaScript code inside our HTML file. And my HTML file have already been opened in my code editor and has been open on the browser too. You can see this JavaScript fundamentals one. This from my H1 that is coming. I think, and it's very clear that you must have learned HTML and CSS, which are the basic language of the web. We are calling language of the web. Actually, they are not a language of the web. HTML is not a language of the web, just a markup language. But let's say it's a language of the web. So before coming to JavaScript, it's expected that you must have learned the basis of HTML and CSS. So this is not new to you, but if it's new to you, it's still okay. And I guess you may check out for a course on HTML and CSS, which I think you may also find it on my channel. If not, it will be uploaded soon. And this is how we are going to link. I will write our JavaScript code inside our HTML file. And for us to write our JavaScript code inside our HTML file, the first thing we need to do is mostly advisable to write our JavaScript file or to link it in the body and at the last line before the closing of the body. This is because of the synchronous nature of the loading of files on the browser. So we use the script tag. That is what we're gonna use. My VS Code have already suggested it for me. And in this place, we are going to write our JavaScript code inside our script tag. And how can we communicate with the browser using our JavaScript file? We use what is called console.log. This console.log will send a message to our console, which we will open it our browser in just a minute. Let's come back. Let's write something actually. The first line of code, first JavaScript line of code, we are going to say hello world, welcome, hello world, and hello world, exclamation mark. And how can we link this? Let's come back. I'm using live server. Anything you do here will automatically update itself on the browser. I don't know whether you have live server or not. If you don't have live server, it's not something tedious. You just go where you have saved your HTML file and you double click and open it with your browser. And I'm emphasizing, if you don't have Chrome on your browser, on your desktop or any device you're using, it's better you install Chrome so that you use it because it's more faster and more preferable to use it in our journey of development. And if you have done that, and you have loaded your file on the browser. We come to the browser, but you discover that our JavaScript file has not appeared there. Where can we see our JavaScript file on our browser? Just simple a step there. The first way we can do that, we can right click and you scroll down, you see inspect. When you hit the inspect, there you see something, you see there are many links here. You come to this one that I'm pointing out that is called a console, and you just see our HTML, our JavaScript file displayed there, hello world. So far for now, this is what we'll be using to practice our JavaScript using the console. And this is the major way we can open up a file and view our file on the browser for now. In future time, we are going to use to interact with the DOM is an advanced course in JavaScript, and that is the reason why we are learning this JavaScript, so that we can do dynamic effect on our web pages. We can do dynamic effect in our web applications. And for now, this is the major way we can open up our JavaScript file for now to make our practice. And there is another way we can open up our JavaScript file on the browser but not embedded in the HTML file, and that is what we call external script. We will do external script, and we just write script.js. We end it with a JS, just like HTML. For it to be acknowledged by the browser that is a HTML file, you have to end with the extension which is .html, and the same for JavaScript. For the browser to recognize that this is a JavaScript file, you're just gonna end it with .js. And this is the extension that will make the browser understand that this very file is a JavaScript file. If we didn't do it, forget that. And if we have done that, how can we now link our JavaScript file to our HTML so that we can write things and manipulate our DOM? It's just easy. You come to our tag here where we have written our JavaScript line of code. Let us cut that from that. I'm using shortcut Control X. I don't know for you, but that is your business. And here we write src. This is how to link. If we use CSS, in CSS we are using style, or we are not using CSS, we use a tag called style. But here, because it's a script, we are using a script. That's why we have the script tag. And inside the opening tag of your script tag, we are going to write as src, which is a source. This source means the location of your file. And right there, we are going to write our script, which means that we have already connected our JavaScript file to our HTML file. We don't have to be writing our HTML file inside our JavaScript file inside our HTML file. This is because, for example, now we have 1,000 line of code, and you also want to manipulate your DOM width. And if we include that in your HTML file, which is already 500 lines of code, you discover that everything is piled up and it's very bulky, and you find it very, very difficult to write JavaScript and to, like, in fact, going through your file to be bulky. So it's good that we attach it externally. That is the reason why we are using external JavaScript. You can link it such as we can consider it being a external CSS, as we have learned from CSS. I'm emphasizing because it's basically you learn this one before you start it, and that is very good. I haven't connected your file. We are going to paste that in our JavaScript file. Let me paste it here. I've already copied and pasted. Me, I'm using a shortcut LC. If you discover from the last one, I did not write this consider log manually. It's an extension. It's actually what I've configured in my browser, but that one we do it if we continue, we do it later. But if you have written your consider log, then we now do. You save it your file and you come back to the browser, you refresh, and you discover that you still see hello world. Let's do another thing. Let's say I'm using my shortcut right there. I don't have to waste time typing it. My name is Joseph Tete, and if you write that, you just see there. This is to tell you that we have successfully linked our JavaScript file to our HTML. We can now view our JavaScript on the browser using the console command. And you can see it is telling you that this JavaScript is coming from a JavaScript file is coming from line 2. And if you check our script, you discover that it's corresponding there. And that is what we are going to use in the rest of our journey for now in doing our JavaScript. And having said that, the next thing we are going to do now, we have learned how to link our file to our HTML, and how to view our file on the browser using the console, and how to open up our console on the browser. And the next thing we are going to look at variables. What are variables? Variables are very, very important aspect of JavaScript because they serve as a container to hold our value that we'll be producing in our software in JavaScript. And without wasting time, let us take a sample. Let's say let first name. Let first name equals, sorry, let first name, you put it in, it's not Joseph. This is my first name. And for you to view this on the in the console, you have to put it in the console to consider also you say first name. First name. Yeah, that's great. And you see that we just see our first name here on the console. Let's refresh. We see Joseph here. Yeah, we see Joseph there. So before we move on, I'm going to explain some few things here so that we understand what we are really writing. Let's not just be writing rubbish. And the first thing I want us to look at this first name. What is this first name? We call this first name. This is what we call the variable. And if you look at it, sometimes you see something strange. They are telling you let first name, and we see the string there. That is what we learn later. But for now, what is his first name? This is what we are calling the variable. And this one here we call the value. This one, for you to write your value, you have to, if it's a string, which you are going to learn, which is one of the data types, we learn this just a few minutes after now, or few minutes from here. And that one don't mind about that one, but you have to include your value in the code if it's a string. And I will tell you what a string is just in a minute. And the another thing we discover here, we discover that there is something that is coming before this variable I am pointing out right there. And this one, there are ways of declaring our variables. And we have about 3 ways of declaring our variables. Another one we call what is a const. And let me say const last name. And now I may be saying in your mind, what is the difference between this const and this const and this less? Don't bother yourself with that. We're gonna do that just in a second. And you just, if I refresh my browser, nothing is there because I have not console.log it. Because before you view anything on the browser, you must use console.log. Take note of that. And we have last name. Discover that you have TT up there. That is my name. Don't bother about that. You write your name so that you feel happy for just writing your first line of coding if you are into the world of development. And that is absolutely right. And you discover that we have const. Const is already displayed. There's another way of declaring our variable. That one is called a var. The var keyword. And we have this var middle name. Middle name. And you discover that let's middle name be Tokuma. Sorry. We are putting all of them in code because they are string, and I will tell you what a string is just in a minute. Don't bother about that. And if you refresh my browser, you also see I did not consider a lot. Sorry. I'm just you notice that nothing appears without writing it in the console. Just let's see middle name. Don't worry. And yes, you say Tokuma there. So these are the 3 ways of declaring our variables. We have the let, the const, and the var. You are just bothering your mind now that what is this const, let, and var all about. There's a difference between them, but they are all of them are used to declare variables and variables in our JavaScript file. And before I go on, there's something I want to tell you. Never use var in declaring our variables. Why? Because var was one of the is the oldest way, the old way that they used in writing our JavaScript, declaring our JavaScript variables. It was used during the early age of JavaScript, but for now, like we are in the EF, starting from upper version EF2, EF5, EF6, we are no longer using var again. We are using const and let. Just take that. I'm not gonna give you most explanation on the var, but I just want you don't use var for declaring your variables in our modern applications that you're writing. But if you go through like old applications, discover that they receive var. They don't bother. It's because they have developed the application in the last years that they have not upgraded this. But for now, I'm going to tell you what let and const is all about. There are different ways. If you come to this let and const, let's do something down here. Let's tell first name equals Enoch. First name equals Enoch, and let's carry our console log and bring it down here. And if we save it, discover that our first name have automatically turned into Enoch. Instead of why not Joseph? Now Enoch. I will tell you that in a minute. Let me also change our last name. Let me say last name to be equal to bash And you discover that this batch is now saying assignment to a constant variable. Why that? This is because let, when you say let, even from the word, you discover that let, you are not certain. Let is not certain. That means you may have to change that variable in the future. But const is, is constant. Constant doesn't change. So in declaring your variables in your application, you have to write, if you know that this value is definitely not going to change, you use const. But if you know that this value may change in the near future, we call it mutation. If you want to mutate that value, you are going to use let, so that you have access to mutating that value. And we have another thing, let's say let x. If you have done mathematics, you use let a lot, and have 23. Let's close this. Let's cancel this last name, so that you just be throwing this nonsense error there. Yeah, it's over now, and we now do our console.log to be x. There's something you may be observing. Discover that this 23 is not put in quote. You just write 23 ordinarily, and there's no error. So that is another data type, and that is the next thing we are going to look at. But for now, just concentrate on this variable. That's the only thing I'm showing you. Discover that the variable can be anything that you want. But there's something I want to show you about this variable. Let's say let to first name. Let's say let's to first name equals to equals to James. You discover that the line have been, there's a red line that has been, they underline it with a red line, and there's an error in our console that invalid or unexpected token. In declaring variables, we have the liberty to declare variable as we want, but there are some limitations. We cannot start a variable with a number, a variable name with a number. By now I suppose you know what a variable is. And a variable is a container I've said, and this container is containing this value. I've said that, not repeating it again, but I'm just emphasizing it. So if we look at this, we discover that we start our variable with 2, which is a number, and JavaScript doesn't never accept that. We can't start a variable name with a number. And that is what, as I was saying, there is another thing we call data types. And these data types, we have about 7 data types. But before we move into data type, is what I want to show you. I want to show you what we call comment. Comment is very important. We have comment in HTML and CSS. But in JavaScript, we have different comment. There's a way of writing comment different. For example, we want to comment this very line of code. We now just write / and you discover that the line of code have now turned into ice color or dark, and that line of code will not display in your browser because we have commented it out. And that is what we call comment. I'm not emphasizing because I know you must have learned that from your web design basis with HTML and CSS. So we move straight up to the data types, and here I'm going to use this comment now. That was why I show you first, and we say data types. And under this data type, we have about 7 data types. 7 data types. The first one we call strings. And these strings, sorry, they say S at the end, string. For strings, let's say string. You see the same thing? But this string, there are data types. Actually, sometimes we don't declare data types. And in JavaScript, if you have been to other programming language such as Java, you have to declare your data types. But JavaScript is so dynamic, and it's very easy that we don't have to declare data types. You just write it, and JavaScript automatically detect this is a number, this is a string, this is a boolean, this is a non, this is a and all of such. But let's say, let's come back to our example here. You discover that if you look at this first name, let's say this, if you want to know the data type, there's what we use to call type of, type of, sorry, type of. Then we write first name. Discover that you don't see that in our console, you see something from like 20, and you check, you see it's a string. And there is this just is telling you that this very name, this very variable that have a value called Joseph or whatever is a string. I guess you understand what I'm saying. If you want to check the data type that you have written, You now check using this type of and you write that very name. You may write it straight instead of writing first name. Let me just do something different. Let me say Joseph straight up. And you just see it's a string, nothing have changed. You refresh, discover that it's still a string. Let's do this another one. And I'm using a shortcut here, alternate shift alternate key down, and I will change it. If you duplicate the line, let me say instead of writing a string, let me write another one. We say 23, and we come here, you discover that it has shown us a number. And that is how to check data type. Before, after that, that is the second data type, and I told you that we have about 7 data types. Let me list them for you so that you're gonna get that clear. And with another one, we have number. Number is the data type. We have seen that one. The next one we have boolean. The next one, sorry, there's A here. Don't mind about the spelling. The next one here we call the next one. After boolean, we have what is called undefined. Undefined. We are going to discuss all of them. The next one we have none. The next one we have big int. Big int. The next one we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next one that we have all the list. What is this one now? We have we have the symbol. Sorry, the next one we have is symbol. Symbol. What is this? Okay, we have symbol. So we have discussed the number. We discussed the string. Discussed the number. The next one we have undefined, and this undefined, it means that undefined, just say that thing is not defined. Actually, just say, let's say, for example, name. Let's say middle name. Not say we have used name before. Let's say container. Container. And if you do not, you do not write this thing, you do not declare, you declare a value without attaching any value to, you just declare it like that. That value is called undefined. Why is it called undefined? Because there's no, it's sorry, sorry, if you declare a variable, not a value. When you declare a variable without attaching a value to it, it's called undefined because we don't know what that value may be. It can be a number, it can be anything, depending on the value that the container will carry, which is the variable. So whenever you declare a variable with no name, with no value, we call that variable undefined because it's yet to be defined. When we call none, none, this is for undefined. This is undefined. The next one, let me be writing it. Undefined. The next one we call the null. This null, for example, null means nothing, and it's when you have a value, you have, for example, an array. An array, don't ask me much question. An array we saw one among the data type and where our storage devices will be using in JavaScript. But when you define an array with no value, that value there's nothing in it, and that value is that data type is called a null because there's not, it doesn't have anything. When something doesn't contain any value, it's called a null. Let's try something that is that for null. And this big int, you know that data JavaScript variable which is the number, JavaScript variable which is data type which is the number, don't carry big huge number. So when you come to a very large number such as a trillion or more than a trillion, JavaScript will not be able to manipulate that number very well. So by that time, the next thing we are going to use is what we call the big int. Big int we mean big integers, and that's why the name is big int, so that it will be very clear for you. And the last one we are going to look at is called the symbol. Symbol, we are not going to use it now because we don't really need it in our beginner level of JavaScript, but I will just tell you what symbol is. Symbol is, when we talk about symbol, they are unique value that cannot change. That's just take it like that. That unique value they cannot change for now. Remember, we will not be using this symbol because it's when we go to advanced JavaScript that we start using things like symbol. But just know within you that symbol are JavaScript value that cannot change. So for data type, that is that for data types. And so far we have discussed variable, we discussed data types, with 7 types of data types. We have mentioned them and we have talked a little about them. And the next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna talk about operators. Operators. Operators are very, very, very important. Just as in our mathematics, you have done mathematics, you discover that we do operations, and those operations we use what we call operators. And we have about three types of operators. We'll be discussing them in this lecture. The first one we have what is called the arithmetic operators. When you talk about arithmetic, you also know it. You already know this. Just take it common. Just don't be thinking programming now. Just take it normal. Just take it operation. We're doing operation in mathematics. So when we're doing operation in mathematics, we use things like plus, minus, times. They are all. Let's do something. Let's not be talking much. Let's say, for example, y. I like using this because it's so fast in mathematics. So let's 7 minus 2, and let's say cancel the log y, and discover it will produce a value which is what is 5. 5 is already there. JavaScript so smart, I've already calculated that. What I want to show you here is I want to show you what is called an operator, and discover that this minus is working. Is 7 minus 2. You can do that, and we have your 5. If you have a calculator, you can verify it if you do not believe JavaScript. But I believe I don't have to use calculator because I believe JavaScript. So you discover that 7 minus 2 is 5. But what I want to show you is that this is an operator. This minus here is an operator. And we have other operators such as the plus. Let's say let's do something. Let's declare them here before we come to using. Let's say let x let p equals to 5 4, and then let y equals 9. And it's called that what I've shown you before. This is highlighting this thing because it's a constant. I'm assigning a value to a constant. Thank God you are seeing it live yourself. That is good. And let us cancel that out. Yes. And you discover if you refresh it, let's clean this left away, and that is back to normal. So let's now do our operations with this. The first one we are going to do is y minus x is y minus sorry minus x. I discovered that it has produced a value which is minus 14. What I'm just trying to show you operators, and the next one, just like minus operators, plus operators also work in the same way. Let's do something called sum to be equal to p plus y, and cancel the log it, and it will give us a value of sum. Discover that is 13. It's showing 9 minus 4 is 13. That is that for sum operator. Let's do const division. Const division. Sorry. Const div. That's equals to y divide p, and we do this const. Sorry. This is I'm writing them inside this the parentheses. That's why it's showing arrow. Let's say div. Sorry, equals to p y divide p, and if we cancel the log dot, you will have cancel the log dot, you have 2.5. There is something I want to show you about this div operator. There is another one. When you want to get the remainder, you do const, let's say div rim. The rim then be equals to y divided by p, and you discover the rim. Let's say the rim, consider log the rim we have. Let's do something. Discover that, yeah, sorry, this should be percent sign. Discover that we have one. It's called that only the whole number part is given. That is that for the dim for the percentage. When you divide with the percentage. The last one we are going to talk about under arithmetic operators. We are going to talk about, let's talk about the multiplication const mod to be equals to y asterisk Here is asterisk P that we use, then we do. Let's consider logging to the let's consider log mode, and we have our value there to be 36 exactly. As I've said, you can use your calculator to confirm the values, but JavaScript is so smart to do that for you. And that is that for arithmetic operators. The next one we are going to look at, we are going to take a good look at what we call logical operators or logical operators. But before we go to look at logical operators, it's good to look at comparison operators. And these comparison operators are mostly used to produce Boolean values to tell you, for example, let's do something console.log and 5 is equal to 5. 5 is equal to 5, and it will produce a value of true. That is, this operator here is called a comparison operator. It is called a comparison operator. It's used to compare between two different values, and you can do something. For example, is 5 greater than the next one? Let's do something. Cancel the log. Let's say 4 is greater than 3. It will also produce a value. Let's say 4 is greater than equal to 3 is the next one. 4 is greater than 4, it also produce true. And this value you are seeing here are called, this is what we call the Boolean values. True and false, they are used for logical state, they are used in what we call conditional statement. But for now, that is a bit advanced more than the level of this course, so we are not going to discuss that, but we'll discuss it in the subsequent coming lectures. So let's go to, let's say another one is less than or equal to. 4 is less than or equal to 5. That one will produce false because 4 is not equal to. Yeah, it's true. It's less than or equal to 5 is produced true at line 45. Let's say 4 is less than 5. Is less than 5 is still true. Let's produce a value that will give us false. Let's say 5 is greater than 4, and you see the value false here. And that is that for comparison operators. We have numerous of them. They are equal to, not equal to. The other one is not equal to. For example, let's try the not equal to operator. You say 4 is not equal to 5, and it will produce invalid left side operator. Sorry, it's supposed to be that exclamation because before the equal to, and it says true. And let's say 4 is not equal to 5. 4, it will give us a false value because of course 4 is equal to 4. And that is that for the comparing operator. We have another one which is called the logical operator. This one, let me comment it so that I know what is there. Going on there, we have comparison operators. The next one on the list, we are going to talk about logical operators. Logical operators. Logical operators. And under these logical operators, we have like 3 of them on my list. Let me use one. For example, we have under this logical operator, let's say 5, 4, and this one is called and 5. This one here is called this is called the AND operator. This is an AND operator. We have another one. When you see this AND twice, it's called the AND operator. We have another one which is the O operator for sorry, 5. It's called the O operator. This one is called the O operator. The next one is called the NOT operator. We are not talking much about this. Why not? We use the exclamation 6, and that is false. So these are the 3 types of operators that we have. This last one, these logical operators from the name logical, they are used to writing of logical statements such as the if and else statement, of which we discuss them in the subsequent coming lecture. So for this lecture, the scope of this lecture, this one we are going to stop up on operators. And these are the basic operators that we're using in our journey of JavaScript programming. And I advise you to go over this again to master this operator. Actually, they are simple, but you need to master them. And the next thing we are going to talk about functions. Functions are one among the very basic fundamentals of JavaScript is what you have to know. Let's separate it so that we know from the console that this the word is, let's say functions, and let's save it so that it has appeared down here on the console that I will know that from downwards we are treating functions. Let me write a very basic structure of a function. The first thing we have the function keyword. Let's say for function calc age. We write a function that we're gonna calculate the age, calc age. And this function in between we have the birth year. Let's say the birth year. The birth year. Don't mind the write up. And in this function, we are going to bring a value in. We say, let's calculate, sorry. First thing, let's calculate the birth year. Let's calculate the age. And age equals to, let's say the current year is 2024 minus the birth year. And in this year, we are going to consider log our age, and we return a value which is age. And let me, sorry, before we produce value, this we do something before I will tell you exactly what it's all about. Let's say, let's call the function inside the consider log. Oh, let's see something here. No need of calling because there's a consider log inside. Let's say clock age and put a value. Let's say I was born in 2020, 2002, 2002. Sorry. Yeah. And if you look here, the age have already been calculated. And that is exactly what a function is. A function is a piece or a block of code that taking a value and produce another value. And from our function, we are going to discuss the anatomy of a function. That means the basic structure of the function. The first thing you're going to learn about function is this function keyword. And this is telling you that wherever you see this telling you that it's a function, this one is a function name. This one that is, I'm highlighting it here, this is a function name. This one is what we call the parameter, and this is a block or the body of the function. That which I have written in this block is the function body. And this return keyword is going to tell you that this is the value that we want this function to return. That after this function, this is a value or result that we want to get from this function. And what we have done here, this is what we call invoking or calling a function. I have a picture here that will show. Let me widen my screen so that we show you the anatomy of a function. I have something here. You can see I have a diagram here to show you the anatomy of a function. This one is a function name. This one here is a return statement. This is a statement to output a value from the function and terminate the execution. No other line of code after this return keyword will be executed in your function. The next one is called a parameter, and this one is a function body. I have shown you that. And for the very basis of a function, that is what we are going to discuss. Let us call the function again using another age to see if it's really working. Let's say I'm born in 19, I'm born in 2024. Sorry, you have to put in parentheses around it before. Let me say I'm born in 2005. 2005 and 2005, and I am 19 years old. And that is that for function. And before I round up this lecture, I'm going to tell you that we have about three types of function. We have function declaration, we have function expression, and we also have arrow function, but that is beyond the scope of this lecture. For this lecture, I'm John. I'm going to introduce you to the very basics of function, and that is that for the function. And in this lecture, we have discussed JavaScript, use of JavaScript and application, linking JavaScript file, variables. We discussed about comment, we discussed about data types, operators, and functions itself, which is the last thing that we have discussed. This is for this lecture. This is where we're gonna stop, and the upcoming lecture will take us from functions up to other fundamentals of JavaScript, which will be the second. The fundamental two of JavaScript will be treating things like arrays, will be treating things like objects, and we'll be looking deep into what functions are all about. And from there, we'll be talking about the different types of function. Thank you for how far you have come in this lecture. If you are new to this channel, do not forget to subscribe, to comment, and to like. And if you have any other question, you can ask in the comment section. Thank you for watching.